I get this question a lot, and I think it comes down to seeing, one life transformed. It's like once you see one life going from where it was to then having full joy in life. And as you guys know, at Zoe, we've seen that. You see like joy come into their lives. You see healing. You see just, people that now become valuable members of society. And so it's continuing to see one person at a time, right? Because that's the thing with human trafficking. It's like you can get so overwhelmed at the statistics and the numbers and the 50 million people and, all of those types of things. But then I think it still comes back to, the one that I helped in that season, the one that moved from, even if it's just one step further in their healing process. I think, it comes back to the relationships and the one at a time.
Today's guest is Hanne Fellers. Hanne is an amazing friend of ours who we have been so inspired by over the years. She's Korean Norwegian. She has traveled to over 25 countries through Impact World Tour. And when she was in her travels, she really got exposed to the exploitation in children. And that really impacted her and changed the trajectory of what she was going to do for the rest of her life. She has been working with organizations that really help fight human trafficking. She has her own nonprofit called Passport to Freedom. And she also worked with Abolish Slavery and Zoe International. And she also helped to shape In and Out's initiatives to fight trafficking with her Slave to Nothing Foundation. She is an incredible powerhouse woman, a mom to 2 young boys, and she loves the arts. She loves storytelling and strategy. So I'm sure you're not going to want to miss this episode. Make sure you stay tuned. Hey, my name is Kat.
And I'm Lee.
And welcome to the
Wildly Wealthy Life podcast. In this show, we explore the journey of what it means to live a truly exceptional and fulfilling life.
Each episode focuses on how a foundation of brilliant minds and brave hearts nurtured through the arts leads to lifelong success.
Get inspired with actionable tips to foster a growth mindset, leadership values, and creativity in children and adults, turning their potential into lasting contributions for their communities.
We hope that you embrace the challenge to shift your perspective as we equip you and the next generation for a
wildly wealthy life.
In a moment, we're bringing Hanne in. And before that, we'll do a quick recap. Babe, how was your episode with Hanne today?
Hanne is an amazing woman. She has a strong love for other people, and I think her upbringing really helps kind of set the stage for her. And you can really see how things from your past really are carried through your entire life and will positively affect you as you adapt and grow from them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the main takeaway for me from the interview with Hanne is how everything she has done growing up and all the success that she's done in her work and the impact that she's made on so many people around her and everything that she will continue to do as a leader has really been founded on a strong foundation as a child because she was so supported. She had this background of, being abandoned by her biological parents and got adopted. But yet she had this very strong foundation of love and support. And I think that is why it's so important for us as either caregivers, educators, or parents to raise kids with such a strong foundation in their identity and in their mindset. So you're going to want to keep listening to this episode all the way to the end. Let's go ahead and bring Hanne in. So Hanne, when I think about you, I think of someone who has really amazing leadership skills. And the reason why I say that is because I think that there's a huge difference between someone who's an entrepreneur versus someone who's a leader. And I think that a leader is actually really someone who can sign on people into their vision and be able to, kind of sacrifice parts of themselves to be able to support someone's vision. And so when I look at you and what you've done, you had this vision of for Passport to Freedom. and for putting together like a center in Brazil. And it took you, years, right, to put all of this together. But I've seen you over the years never waver in that vision. I've seen you put together events after events to raise that funds to, actually come to fruition with this vision. And not everybody can do that, and that's the thing. You put it out there and you had a way of making people believe in your vision and sign up with you to make that vision actually come to pass. So I think it's incredible. And what I want to ask is, how did you kind of like learn how to become a leader? Like, what is some of your most favorite leadership values that you feel you really hold on to? And what made you learn that?
I had some really good role models. I think that's the main thing. At an early age, I had, good leaders around me, people who, were encouraging, wanted to love on me, and wanted to see how they could come around me to bring out the best in me. And I think that's what makes a really good leader, is loving someone and seeing even like further than they can see for themselves. See potential and call out that potential and give resources and places to where they can kind of practice and use those giftings, right? And so, yeah, I just grew up with a lot of really great leaders around me at a young age. As a teenager, had a really great leader around me. And when I started traveling with Impact World Tour, that I traveled with 7 years, the founder, his name is Phil Lannerman. He is just one of the most amazing people that is hardworking, passionate, and just really knows how to pull out people's giftings. And so, yeah, just really good people around me. I think that's the main thing.
When we talk about leadership, there's usually different experiences that kind of get us into that mentality, get us into that position. What were some of your first experiences with leadership?
I started kind of like a creative arts / dance program at my church. I think I was 14 or 15. And it was just one of those things where it was like in Norway, where I'm from, they just didn't really accept dance as a part of like church or faith or, and so my youth pastor or leader at the time, he just was like, well, I think that the Bible talks about dance, and I think that, God intended for dance to be a part of the church, and you love it, and, you know how to use this to spread a message and to bless others. So why don't you do that at our church? And just gave me the space, invested in getting like dance mirrors for the church. And then, yeah, that's kind of how I first started leading. So it was pretty young when I started to lead.
What were some of the obstacles that you remember at that time that you had to kind of overcome?
A lot of it was that there wasn't a lot of people around me that had gone before me within this yet, not in where I was from. So I had to look to other places. Yeah, so it was like finding the music even, like Christian music or whatever it was. It was like, that was always a challenge, finding the right music, finding people that could inspire you to create, your dances, and then knowing how to lead. But I was pretty fortunate because I met this young leader that was in the capital of Norway that also really believed in me and invested in me and kind of helped me figure it out. So even though it was challenging, I still had great role models. And I think that comes back to my first point of leadership. It's like, I believe in being a leader that can pull out the best in someone and inspire them, right? Not just, saying this is what you need to do. It's more like, how do I inspire you to do something new that I haven't even done, that I think that you could do, seeing that.
Because that's been your experience, like people showing you that, hey, you can do this. You probably don't know it yet, but you can do this. And so that's why you lead that way, because that's been your experience.
For sure.
Yeah. Amazing. And how does creativity kind of contribute to your leadership skills and how you lead people?
Yeah. So I think when you think of creating in general and creative people, I think they're the people who basically run the world. And, they're the ones who come up with, what's the next trend? What's the next thing? It's the creatives. And unfortunately, I guess I've learned this more so in America and, other places too, but often the arts are the ones that are, oh, we need to cut the budget. Let's cut the art piece or the creatives or whatever it is. But then I think our society is now changing into, wait a minute, the creatives are the ones who set the trends and who lead. And so, when you think about it, that's how it's been in history, but it's starting, I think, to be more acknowledged now, how the creatives are the ones who set kind of the next thing for society. And so, yeah, being creative and the arts, I think, is so important in any leadership skills and how you learn how to create new things, right? Because if not, you're just doing the same old schmamel, and people are like, "Okay, I've seen that, been there, done that." And I know, there's the verse that talks about there's nothing new under the sun, but at the same time, I'm like, God created us creative people, and so I think that in every person there's something creative, and it's about learning how to pull out those creative, ideas. And yeah.
And that was a creative word, schmamel. I've never heard that before. Same schmamel. You're just going to keep doing the same schmamel.
Yeah.
When we are looking at you, there's excellence, there's consistency, there's like a grace that you have for people, for the projects and whatnot that you're working on. When you're working with different companies, different organizations and whatnot, what do you feel are some of the qualities or characteristics that can help somebody step into some of those leadership positions?
I think the most important piece is humility and just being able to show that sometimes you're wrong and sometimes things fail, but then it's how you rise, it's how you move on that really shows your character and who you are. And so I think that's a really important trait in leadership, is being able to be humble and, admit when you're wrong. And then also, I think it's about having a servant posture. I've been so fortunate to be around very many leaders who just model that so greatly. I was with, an organization called Zoe that you guys know really well for 7 years. And Mike and Carol Hart are just those people. They just show humility and they serve. And so it inspires you to want to be like them and to, outdo them in how you serve and how you are humble and just, give glory to God. Give glory where honor and where praise is due. And they're doing amazing work, but they're constantly pointing at other people to say, oh, these people do that. And, these are the people that's doing the important work. And it just shows that humility, and it's not forced or feels fake. It's like genuine humility. And so I think that's what has inspired me the most.
You've mentioned a couple of times just finding different leaders, different mentors and whatnot. Is there an approach that you have to seeking these people out? Is it just how you carry yourself? Do you feel like it's just an alignment where God has put you to be under these people?
Yeah, because I think about it too, Hanne. It's like you really do have like people who, it's almost like you're always under great, like you're always in great relationship with people. Like there's got to be, it's almost like, it's like, how did that just come about? Like, is it just, like you just meet like the most amazing people all the time, and it's just incredible.
Yeah, it's totally, I would say, again, it's totally God. But at the same time, I think it's about once you meet someone that shows you those characteristics, like, humility and leadership and all those things. And so to me, it's just about being authentic with those people. And like some people, I just did straight up like, hey, would you spend time with me? Can I learn from you? And then that kind of has snowballed into maybe, work or different things. And so even with Zoe too, it was just like, we went on a mission trip, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I see the fruits. I see, the results. I see everything that's going on here. Like, truly, the favor of God is upon this organization. How can I serve? How can I learn how you're doing it, why you're doing it, and all those pieces? And so I think I just kind of had that spirit of being like, how do I learn? How can I grow? How can I help you? And I think that comes back to leadership skills of being like, it's not about yourself. It's about building someone else up. And then all the other things kind of snowball and happen, It's taking the focus off of yourself and trying to help someone else,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it comes to your heart for helping, kids, youth, or anyone that's being, trafficked, where did that desire to help come from in that specific, group of people?
It was something, like, I think some people are born with like a justice in them. But I think there's different pieces that kind of happen that obviously led me to kind of focus on that. I just remember being a young kid and always being like, you're not going to bully my friend. And, just always was about like, what's right? How do you treat other people kind of thing? And then, once I learned and saw, I witnessed, prostitution essentially in Amsterdam, but then saw and looked into these women that were working their eyes and just saw the emptiness in them, and then started learning more about human rights, and then, witnessed it in Brazil, and then witnessed it in Thailand and other places. It's just one of those things I say, like, you can't unsee it. You can't unknow about it. And I think the injustice and how just straight up wrong it is what, fueled this like spark in me to want to do something about it. And then, it kind of just naturally trailed into a career and, what I'm doing now. And
What's nice is that you've focused on your passions, or like where you come alive, or helping people, rescuing people, and then these positions have just kind of opened up. So I was curious, like with the transition from Zoe to like In-N-Out, for example, what were some of the driving factors for that decision? And then how do you think that has really helped accelerate your leadership, your ability to be creative, and the impact that you have on the world around you?
Yeah, the Zoe thing, it was interesting because I so love, Zoe, and love the leaders. But I think it was this thing of, I feel like I need to grow and expand what I can learn. And I felt like I had kind of come to a halt a little bit, where I had worn so many different hats at Zoe and been involved in so many projects, where I was like, wait, I need to kind of get out and learn a little bit more, which is funny because now I'm kind of communicating a lot with Zoe, and probably likely will, I always somehow work with them and always be a huge champion of them as an organization. But it was a lot of different factors on top of my husband going through some things at the time that kind of led us to need to be out from the city a little bit more. And so, we realized that we need to be closer to nature and all of that for healing and for different things. And so there were a lot of factors there, but I would say a major thing definitely was that I just wanted to expand, like, how can I keep learning? How can I keep growing? And, In-N-Out Burger is a multi-billion-dollar company, and, they have a reach that's unreal. And so much, people love this company, and I still love this company. And it's just has a great reputation. And so, I just felt like it was time to expand and learn something new. Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about that journey of your work with them, what you did with them, and what is your biggest takeaway? Like, what is the thing that you learned from them that you feel like can really be applied to, the next season?
Oh, that's a good question. So my main job was, I would say, to, represent the foundation. It's called the Slave to Nothing Foundation. The owner, president of In-N-Out Burger, Lindsay Snyder, and her husband, Sean Ellingson, they created this foundation. So it's not very old. It's about 8 years old now. And, it was like their vision. And so I joined them and I did a lot of like vetting of nonprofits. So they would essentially give out grants around, 2.8 million is what we would give out throughout In-N-Out Burger's marketplace. So they're currently in 10 states and growing and expanding. And it was my job to travel to the different states and meet with anti-trafficking organizations that were working in that marketplace, and then vet them and then recommend funding, essentially. So it was such an amazing experience. I traveled, with Slave to Nothing, there was like the anti-trafficking side, and then there was a substance abuse side. And when I first came on board, I was kind of the only person that would do the vetting where I traveled and everything. So I did overlap with some substance abuse organizations, which was amazing because I learned so much just about that and that issue as well. So between like the two causes, I probably visit about 100 or so nonprofits. And so when you get to see that many nonprofits and you get to hear like, because of, I think, the way of how In-N-Out Burger has established itself as a company, so many people want to be involved with the company. And so, they make sure that the founders are there or the CEOs are there whenever I would come visit. And so I got to meet so many people who just saw a need in the community and started a nonprofit and would tell me about their vision and ideas and all of that. And so I learned firsthand from about 100 founders or CEOs about why they started, how they're working, what they're doing, what's working, what's not working, all those pieces. And I know for sure all of those lessons, it's what's kind of trailblazed me now into what I'm doing now with a firm in New York called the Salt Exchange. And it's essentially multiple philanthropists and foundations, and I'm helping advise them on funding right now. So yeah, it's for sure just kind of guided me to the path of, understanding philanthropy, understanding giving and what's important for donors and for philanthropists in regards to where they want to give money. So I learned so much during the season, for sure.
Wow. Yeah. You mentioned earlier humility, right? Something that's very important for you, I think, and also what you think is one of the best leadership skills values is to have humility. With all of those 100 nonprofits that you met, the CEOs, you said you learned, what worked, what didn't work, why they started it, how are they operating, all of that. Is there one leadership value or skill that you feel is the most common out of all of those?
There was such a variety of leaders that were there, but I think the kind of red thread is that, again, like I mentioned, they all saw a need that they wanted to fulfill however they could. And so many people started out not really knowing what they're doing. And some people, then just was like, oh, I need to go to conferences. I need to connect with other people. And, like I know Zoe, because they've been around for so long, 22, 23 years. I know they have mentored so many other anti-trafficking organizations because they were kind of an early organization. Whereas like, I would say right around like 2012 to like 2016, there were so many new anti-trafficking organizations that came out. But by that time, Zoe had already been around for 10 years, So they were able to like pay it forward and, help steward and teach these other leaders. So I think, again, it comes back to like a desire to make a difference.
When President Roosevelt passed away in his sleep, they found a book under his pillow, proof that even in his final moments, he never stopped learning. That's what true leaders do. Leaders are readers. If you want to grow your mindset, sharpen your skills, and become a better leader, reading is essential. I've compiled my top book recommendations, books I've personally read and applied in both business and life. These books have transformed the way I think, lead, and live. So, are you ready to grow? Check out my book list at wildlywealthyLifepodcast.com/mytools and grow 1% better every day. Think about the world your child will grow up in. Fast-paced, ever-changing, filled with challenges. But what if they had the mindset, courage, and the creativity to thrive no matter what? At Catskis & Company, we believe in shaping that future now with Brilliant Minds, Brave Hearts, our online immersive program for children where they learn leadership and a growth mindset through the magic of storytelling, movement, and music. There's a ton of leadership, mindset, and confidence training for adults. But why should your kids wait till they're adults to learn this? Your child needs these tools today before the world dictates who they should be. Imagine raising kids that know the power of their thoughts, the capacity to navigate emotions, and the courage to live boldly. With our Brilliant Minds, Brave Hearts program, they'll learn to stand strong in who they are no matter the noise around them. Join our priority list at catskis.com/priority and be the first to know when enrollment opens in November. Again, that's katzkeys.com/priority. I'll see you there.
In the different organizations that you got into, substance abuse as well as trafficking, in that, it might just go back to the time when in Amsterdam where you saw like the lack of life in people's eyes or whatnot. But has there been a spark, I guess, that has helped you just stay passionate throughout all this? Because I'm just thinking, like, you know, with different things that we saw in Thailand and in the work that Zoe does, and that people fall out just because of the weight of the issues, you know, that are there. What are some things that have kind of been that spark to keep you moving, you know, throughout that fight?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I get this question a lot, and I think it comes down to seeing, one life transformed. It's like once you see one life going from where it was to then having full joy in life. And as you guys know, at Zoe, we've seen that. You see like joy come into their lives. You see healing. You see just, people that now become valuable members of society. And so it's continuing to see one person at a time, right? Because that's the thing with human trafficking. It's like you can get so overwhelmed at the statistics and the numbers and the 50 million people and, all of those types of things. But then I think it still comes back to, the one that I helped in that season, the one that moved from, even if it's just one step further in their healing process. I think, it comes back to the relationships and the one at a time. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you share a story of a transformed life that is your favorite, that you in days where it's hard for you, you hold on to that story because it's what fires you up?
Yeah. I actually accompanied a survivor, pretty well-known survivor in Los Angeles. Her name is Rachel Thomas. I accompanied her to a speaking engagement at an event in Newport, actually like last week. And I would say her story is one that I heard kind of early on, but just being able to have a personal relationship with her, more like a friendship, like a girlfriend that you see and have lunch with and get to learn from her and kind of hear her heart, understand what fuels her, and then also seeing like where she's now. I think I frequently come back to her story because she's impacted thousands now. She has a prevention contract with the state of California. She has her own business where she has employed over 25 survivors. She's reaching so many foster care youth and just has, she's prevented probably hundreds of teenagers from going the direction that she went and, fell into trafficking. And she's just inspiring, super humble, so like talented, a strategist, a leader, a spokesperson, and just beautiful inside out person.
Wow, that's amazing. That's awesome.
I want to go back a little bit too, because you had your start with dance, performance, the creative life that helped get you into some of these beginning leadership roles. How has creativity been a tool for you when you're moving in through, like, I imagine like looking at a lot of spreadsheets and, if doing evaluations and profit margin loss reviews and everything else?
All the things. Yeah. I think the creative can, speak to you in such a different way from like, when I would travel, I would listen to music that would inspire me. I would try and surround myself with the arts wherever I could, go to a show, go to a museum, make sure I walk the streets to, appreciate the architecture and, all of that. And so I think the arts in general is used to kind of speak and fuel and refuel you and bring you new ideas. And to me, it often is used, I feel like, by God to like reaffirm the direction I'm going or kind of the season that I'm in. Like throughout my whole life, there's music, especially, that's spoken to me in every, great season and also like difficult season. And it's just kept me through those hard times, it's like fueled you to keep going and inspired me to want to do better and to, create myself. And so, the arts is just so essential to everything.
Yeah, I want to touch on that a little bit deeper, Hanne, because I love teaching piano, and one of the reasons why I love it is because I tell the kids that, what a gift it is, because music is already a gift in and of itself, right? But what a gift it is to not just be able to listen to music and connect with music that way, but to actually be able to play the music that you love to listen to, right? Like such a gift. And so, and my students are kids, right? So like, they don't understand that right now, right? They don't understand that. But me as an adult, when I sit on the piano and play, I'm like, man, like this is just such a, like, I still can't believe that it's a gift. It's really, truly amazing. Why is it so, like, because you said for you, music is one of those where like it comes to you all the time. Why music of all things? I mean, I'm sure you're very artistic. I know this about you. You do so many artistic things, but you mentioned music, so I want to tap into that. Why music?
I think from a really young age, my parents really loved music, and they would encourage me to play music and to listen to music. And then once I kind of became my own person, like in your teenage years, you kind of break out and everything. I was always drawn to it. And it spoke to me, like I said, in so many seasons where I look back at like my childhood. It's so funny because now I have, kids of my own. And so I think about what music should I introduce them to? And, what were the songs that I listened to? And as I go back and like listen to like my Norwegian cassette tapes and hear the kind of messages that I was listening to, it's so funny because I look back and I'm like, oh, no wonder I felt this way about certain things. And no wonder I learned about God in this way. And so I think just from a really young age, it was like infused in me that music was a part of life that could speak and could influence.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that you can tell a story, right? Or you can tell someone about something, not in a story form, but just outright tell them. Or you can tell them a story, and when you tell it in a story form, it connects with them more because there's something about the functionality of the brain and how it's wired. We love storytelling. But then if you put story into a song, I think that it even multiplies the connectivity of why we remember things. I told Lee the other day, I said, the Bible verses that I remember are the ones that I sang in Sunday school, and to this day, I still sing these Bible verses. And I'm like, why do I remember these? I'm like, it's because it's music. I don't remember the ones that were spoken to me, but I remember the ones that I would listen to over and over again and sing. But I want to go back into your childhood. Sorry, babe. It's like there's so many questions we want to ask you, Hanne. Like I told Lee, I was like, oh my gosh, this conversation with Hanne, it's going to be hard to keep it 45 minutes and under because there's just so many things about you that I feel like I want to share with our audience. One of that is the fact that you were abandoned as a child and you were adopted. And what I want to know is, growing up and knowing that you were abandoned, what were some of the limiting beliefs that you had to go through, right? And had to kind of like put a stop on? How, obviously, you're such an amazing leader. So how did you grow up with a growth mindset, especially in your case where, of course, your parents who adopted you, they're amazing. They raised you into this beautiful, amazing woman, but still like being abandoned and, all of that has got to have some sort of impact on you. And I want to know what that was for you.
Yeah, I think that the hardships are the ones that really define you and make you grow. And, the joy and all of that people can relate to. But I think, the hardships is where people really, really connect. And so I often, get asked, like, how does that feel? Like, what do you think? Did you have an age where that was a really hard thing for you? And it's very interesting because I can't remember a season that was a very long season where I had a difficult time with it. I was very fortunate to have parents that taught me about God at a really young age. And the amazing thing about a relationship with God is that, that you're created for a purpose. If you read the word, you know that you're created for a purpose and that God has a plan for your life and that there is all these different gifts and talents and things that he can help spark in you. And my parents were really good, like really, really good at fueling that in me and speaking that over me. And so I don't how like some kids, they're like, oh, I didn't know I was adopted until I was like 12. My mom told me, things like that. And for me, it was a thing that I always knew. Like I can't remember a time not knowing. And obviously, like being in Norway and being Asian, I can look in the mirror and be like, okay, that's not my mom and dad. But it was just like a thing that I always knew. And I think, everything in your childhood really has an impact on you. And I think because I was so fortunate, I like credit this back to like my friends and the people that I was around, is that they always just saw me as me and not as something super different. There'll always be those kids that will be like bullies and say, oh, Asian, yellow, rice, whatever thing that they're going to say. But the people who I knew really loved me and that were in my corner just always had my back and always, loved me for me. And so I just grew up in a very, very supportive community. And so I think all of that really helped me be able to be like, okay, I can do this. I can, go for my dreams. I know, again, God created me for a purpose. There's something I can do for him. And I think as you learn and grow and learn about God, you realize that it's about God and it's about loving people. And so how can I do that better? How can I, and once you love people, truly love them, they see it and they acknowledge it and there's fruit, however that happens in leadership or in friendship or family, yeah.
Yeah. And it's about rice, okay? Rice is life. I don't know why people would hate on rice, okay? Why would people hate on rice?
It's always about rice. Gotta have rice and noodles.
Are you worried your child feels defeated when things don't go their way? Do they struggle to adapt in challenging situations? My free video training is here to help. Using the SMART learning method, blending storytelling, movement, and music, we engage your child's mind, body, and heart. Through uplifting stories, interactive activities, and joyful music, your child will learn to embrace challenges as opportunities for growth. For deeper insights on the SMART learning method, check out episode 4. Download your free video training today at katskis.com/mindset and help your child shift their perspective and thrive. Again, that's katzkeys.com/mindset. Spending time with family, creating unforgettable experiences, and seeing the world are all part of living a wildly wealthy life. And that life isn't just for the crazy rich folks. It's for anyone who knows how to travel smart. This ebook from Just Get Out of Town didn't just change how I travel, it transformed my life. Lee and I flew both our parents to Paris for $200 each in first class, while others paid $1,000 in economy. Our first class flight to Taipei, just $50. In our podcast, we talk about leadership skills and how a true leader never stops learning. Because I learned this way of traveling, we now take luxurious trips as a family for 80% less than what others pay. Go to wildlywealthylife.com/mytools to grab your copy today and start creating your own unforgettable memories around the world.
With the people that you impact through the work that you do and the people that you deal with, they're, and people just in regular life, sometimes they don't have the best support. We've seen people come through different situations. They find God, they find that support, they find that peace. But for those that maybe haven't quite connected with either God or a level of support in their own circle, would you have any advice on how to approach that? Because you had mentioned something earlier where you saw something in somebody, you saw a quality that you liked, that you wanted to attach to, and then you just went after it. Like you just said, hey. What kind of advice would you give to somebody who maybe hasn't found that courage, doesn't have the support, and maybe is like fearful of taking that next step? What would be some things that you might recommend for them?
I think, again, it's about people. And so trying to find the right people that you see isn't just about themselves, that is willing to invest something in you. And then, there's, different things that you get from different people. Some people you get friendships, some people you get business, leadership, all these different things. And so I think it's like, obviously, we always want to keep our circles a certain size because you can't connect with everybody. But I am a firm believer that you can learn something from pretty much anyone. So then wherever there's some kind of response back, or like if you get like someone that says, oh yeah, I'm willing to meet with you, say yes. Like go the extra mile. Try and be bold. Like I said, so much of it has come from me saying to someone like, Mike and Carol Hart, like, I'm so inspired by what you're doing. How can I learn? And then that turned into a career for 7 years, So I think it's continuing to like look for the open spaces where there's like some kind of give or pull that you can, attach to. And then kind of feeling free to flow in all of that, and knowing that you're not going to learn everything from one person, that there's something new to learn from a bunch of different people. But yeah, it's just anywhere where there's some kind of invitation, take the invitation. If you're afraid to, ask, I would say try and be around people that are into whatever you're into. If you're a musician, like try to find a community or, somewhere in the city where people meet and talk about music or do gatherings and open mics or whatever it might be, and just like be in that space and let things kind of flow naturally. And if there's one person that talks to you, keep talking, keep that conversation. So yeah, like looking for little windows of invitation, I would say.
Yeah, and I think with the world that we have right now, like the accessibility to people is so huge through social media, through social groups, Discord channels. It is true what you're saying. Is like, you have to find common ground, and sometimes in that space of, if you're an artist, you're in with other people who paint and draw and whatnot. If you're building models, if you're an athlete, if you're business into the finance, it's to finding those groupings. Those schools of thought, and being able to just connect and build your confidence and then grow from there. It's a good point.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hanne.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go, people are looking for someone to encourage them. Doesn't matter if you're the most famous person in the world. They're still looking to be approved by someone who can speak into their lives. And, they're still human and looking for a connection. And so it's like, how can I bless you? How can I serve you? I love, going out with people that I know are like billionaires and just like secretly paying for everything, like the meal or whatever it might be, where it's like, they're so used to, because everyone knows that they're billionaires, that they're just used to, oh, I'm going to pay for it. It's like a given type thing, but it's like so fun and so different to go against and just be like, oh, no, you're not paying, I'm paying for it. Or, someone that's everything's usually taken care of for them and they expect certain things. It's like doing something completely different to try and bless them. I think so many of my relationships and different things have come from just, how can I bless you? How can I serve you? And kind of try and outdo them in how to serve and bless, people. And I think, people are looking for that. People are drawn to that.
Yeah. What I feel like what I'm really getting here, Hanne, from you today is where you are right now really started from your childhood, right? Like having a good foundation, having parents that loved you, right? Love you, and parents and mentors that believed in you and challenged you, and how important that is in a child's life. And unfortunately, not every child gets to have that, right? What would you say to educators or caregivers or parents that are struggling with giving that kind of support to their children? Like, what would your advice be to them?
Yeah, I think peer to peer is something so powerful and unique. And a lot of the times, there's just not a window for a parent figure to influence in the way that really has impact. So I always say, like, try and find, like, if your child plays the piano, right? And then goes through a dry spell of like, I don't want to touch the piano, but that they have like amazing potential. Like, try and find a peer that's like maybe, 5 years older, that has gone through those loops and, those valleys, and try and convince that person to talk to your child. It's just so different coming from someone that you see more as a peer and someone that can inspire you. Because unfortunately, parents will always kind of have that parental lens that is good and bad, So I say to parents who feel like, oh, I can't influence how I want to, like, use someone else to influence, like ask someone else to help inspire them. And then, so you can as a parent, you can help cultivate that and give room for that. And that might be like even needing to pay someone to do that, so it's like investing and also like driving them places and, helping facilitate that. But I think that's what I feel like I've seen the most result is from like peer to peer that's been there and gone through similar things and kind of come out the other side. I think that would be my best advice.
Wow. That is very encouraging to me, Hannah, because one of the reasons why we're kind of bringing back the show, we had this back in 2020, but we're kind of bringing it back, is for me, the thought of exploring leadership, but how, and growth mindset, and how important it is to develop in young kids, like as early as, 5-year-olds, 4-year-olds, right? It's just so important. And there's a way to teach them that. And that encourages me because I do believe that, and sometimes I have this imposter syndrome because I'm like, well, I'm not a mom, like how, what can I, teach these kids? But I have to always remind myself that, well, you're not a mom, but you also have a different perspective, and you could step in as a mentor, as a life coach, because kids sometimes don't want to listen to their parents, but they will listen to a mentor or a life coach, and so it's really encouraging that you say that, because as kids, I don't think we realize that our brains just keep talking. That our minds just keep talking, and then we get into adults, and no wonder there's so many life coaching for adults. And it's like, well, if we just coach the kids, they probably, we still would need it because it's always, an evolving process. But I feel like we would be in a better mental space and emotional space if we actually, teach that to kids at an early age. So that's really encouraging. So Hannah, you have lived such an amazing life, and it's just going to keep going with your impact and what you do because of your heart. You love serving people, and you have the humility to go and do it. What do you think is your own definition of a wildly wealthy life?
Oh, that's good. I think it comes back to what I talked about earlier, loving God and loving people. And, wealth is such an interesting word because it often is, I think, people think of more and bigger and better kind of thing. But I think a wealthy life is a life that's fulfilled. You feel fulfilled in what you're doing. So it doesn't have to be, making millions or having this, million impact on people or thousands of followers or whatever that society often says wealth is. I think it's, again, coming back to living out your passion and feeling like you're contributing. And I always come back to saying, like, if you can influence a life, that's the most important thing. Like, how can you encourage the person in front of you to see the potential in their life, to invest in their life, to, speak life into them, encourage them, and then see even further, maybe for them, than they can see for themselves at the time. And I think, that's a wealthy life, is being able to influence people one person at a time and feeling fulfilled. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I love that.
I love it. So noodles or rice?
Oh, noodles. Rice noodles is like my thing. So it's kind of both because it's rice noodles specifically. I do love japchae, which is like, it's like a sweet potato noodle. Yeah. Oh my gosh, so good. Yes.
So good.
Oh, well, Hannah, thank you so much for spending time with us. We just really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, this was fun. It's funny. Like the last while, a few people have kind of asked and, about like, do you want to come and be a part of our podcast? And I actually turned a few down. And then when I saw you guys were focused on leadership, I was like, I really want to make time because I think it's such a intriguing thing to talk about. And it's something where I want to keep growing. And I feel like I've been in a season of really trying to learn and decipher what is important in leadership. So it was just super fun to be a part of it. So thank you.
Yeah.
You were a lot of great nuggets. So it's good.
Yeah. Same here. And you shared a lot of really awesome stuff. And it's really exciting. I'm excited to share the episode. I've been reading a lot of like the John Maxwell books because he's written just so many, and every time I read a chapter, I'm just like, oh my gosh, wow, I have so much more to learn.
Have you read any of Stephen Covey's books?
I haven't read those 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I read that a long time ago, but it's been a long time. And I feel like, when you read a book, at different seasons in your life, you learn something new. So I haven't read any of his books lately, or even some of his old books lately, but yeah.
I highly recommend. He has one called Trust and Inspire. It came out in 2022. And it just, to me, it felt like it reaffirmed so much of like what I talked about with Carol and Zoe, and like the inspirational leadership to inspire someone to move into leadership and to inspire someone and pull out the giftings in them, and all of that. So highly recommend that one. Yeah.
Thank you. I will add that to my book list. Awesome. Well, thank you, Hanne. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Love you guys.
We love you. Thank you.
All right, friends, that's a wrap on today's episode of Wildly Wealthy Life. We hope you're feeling fired up and ready to take on the world with your brilliant mind and brave heart.
If you love this episode, make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. It helps us keep bringing you the good stuff.
And hey, while you're at it, drop us a rating or review. It takes like 30 seconds? And it makes a huge difference for us.
Also, if you know someone who could use a little guidance on growth mindset, leadership, and creativity, share this episode with them. Sometimes that one conversation can spark up a whole new direction.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. Go out there, live wildly, be wealthy in all the ways that matter to you, and we'll catch you on the next one.